All right, so thank you for joining us for today's Microwage Talks Technology webinar. In the last little while, we've seen many organizations adopt or are looking to adopt a hybrid work environment. And today's conversation will be around a cloud virtual desktop, and specifically Azure Virtual Desktop, that can help organizations operate in a flexible environment productively, securely, and cost effectively. So my name is Maria Fiore, and I'm the Director of Operations here at Microwage, and I'm joined today by Brian Van Heist, Executive at Microwage. Brian, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
And before we begin, I just have a few housekeeping notes for everyone. So as I'm sure you've already noticed, all attendees are muted, mainly to reduce background noise. We do encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation by using the questions panel of the webinar tool, which is normally found on the right-hand side of the tool, and Brian will answer as we go along. And lastly, we are recording the webinar, and the recording will be sent to you later today for your review and or to share with people you think would benefit from listening in. And in the same email, we'll also send you a link so that you can download the ebook that we're making available to you. So just before I hand things over to Brian, I'll just take a moment to give you a brief overview of Microwage. So we have 39 locations across Canada, which makes us one of the largest networks of IT experts in the country. We have been providing IT services and solutions to our clients for over 40 years now. We are, without a doubt, passionate about technology, but our true passion and what we love to do is help our clients achieve the results they are looking for by using the right technology for their business. That's what really makes us tick. We have a simple approach. We have teams of professionals led by people like Brian, who work with our clients to understand their business, their opportunities and challenges, their goals, so they can recommend and provide the services and solutions our clients need to achieve the business results they want. That's really our why. So with that, Brian, I will hand the presentation over to you.
All right, thank you, Maria. And as Maria said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll ask Maria to keep an eye on that and halt me to answer any questions that you might have. So with that, I'll carry on with the presentation. So as we've discovered over the last, for sure, the last couple of years, businesses are evolving because they absolutely have to. Because of the pandemic, a lot of things have changed in your normal business life. A lot of work from home kind of scenarios, different levels of security required. So, the evolving needs of business is very apparent. Employees need the ability to work from home or the office on organization-owned PCs or their own PCs. Security requirements and regulations are constantly evolving for industries, government, and organizational intellectual property. Organizations need the ability to scale up or scale down their workforce. They need the ability to provide secure access for people outside the organization. They need the ability to manage and onboard specialized workloads quickly without perhaps investing in new hardware. Some of the business demands or some of the common challenges with the current infrastructure, and by that I mean an on-premise infrastructure, onboarding and supporting employees on physical PCs. Employees have different capabilities and requirements. Some of them may or may not have the ability to troubleshoot their own hardware software issues. Data security and compliance issues, especially with mobile devices like laptops and smartphones that may leave the office. How do you control and protect the data on them? VPN connections to the office. Quite often we're trying to maintain VPNs on home PCs that might be shared with other family members. You might have remote work performance issues due to the on-premise or home internet bandwidth and reliability. The budgets and skills and resources required to keep an on-premise network updated, secured, and in optimal performance can be daunting. It can be very expensive to maintain proper security and performance. Some business demands these days. Innovation is happening much faster now than any time in history. Business and organizations need the ability to keep up or risk falling behind. Data security and compliance is evolving. How quickly can your organization comply with changes imposed by government and industry standards? Organizations need to be more agile. Our experiences of operating through a global pandemic has exposed many weaknesses in traditional IT models. And then moving from capital expenditure to operating provides consistent monthly annual costs with no surprises that the budget has to deal with. Also ideal with startups with little budget to invest in infrastructure. That's one of the demands. Like sometimes when you're just starting up, you do not have the budget to invest in a lot of hardware. Businesses want reliable, scalable resources that can evolve to business challenges and changes. So how does a cloud solution address these business demands? Well, first of all, the ability to provide the same desktop experience from any device, from any location, at any time is what today's modern office demands. Cloud infrastructure landing zones can be created with the best practices around security, governance, scalability, and management. You can scale up or scale down based on your needs. You get enterprise security that would be hard to duplicate in an on-premise network. There is a good cloud solution for every budget. Costs are no longer a roadblock to move to the cloud. And uniform experience across devices. Your data access settings and desktop appearance is the same across all devices. You get compatible with single session or multi-session cloud configuration. So by that I mean a multi-session cloud could be multiple sessions on one physical piece of hardware, or a single session where your cloud session is dedicated on a cloud physical hardware. Legacy apps are accessible to Windows, Android, and Apple devices. It really doesn't matter what device you're connecting from, you'll be able to access your legacy apps in the cloud. Microsoft apps are accessible to also those same platforms, Windows, Android, Apple devices. So your typical Word, Excel, etc., Access, they can all run on all those devices. It really doesn't matter. And the choice between Windows 10 and 11. Familiar with Windows 10? Start with that. You want to try Windows 11? No problem. It's your choice. You can run either desktop in the cloud.
Actually, Brian, there's a question from Mark who's saying, if I'm still running Windows 7, would that be okay in the cloud, or how would that work?
Yes, that is okay. You can basically virtualize your Windows 7 workstation to the cloud, and what you also get by doing that is you get security updates provided by Microsoft. An on-prem Windows 7 workstation does not get those security updates, but if it's moved to the Microsoft cloud, it qualifies for security updates.
Okay, thank you.
So a good segue. So security and management. Following Microsoft's best practices, cloud landing zones are created for any business size requirements. And by landing zones, it's those 4 areas there: govern, secure, protect, and configure, or 5 areas, and monitoring. Security and costs are governed through management policies. Zones are configured for easy updates, scalability, and automation. You might start small and you want to scale up, or you might start large and you may want to scale down in the future. And you have that capability using zones. Built-in backup and disaster recovery and migration tools are in place. Any cloud deployment we do, we always make sure we have backup tools ready to go the moment it's deployed. Entire system is monitored for live events and historical data. And what about some of the investments you've made? And I already answered part of this. So current license investment subscriptions can be moved to the cloud. So your server licenses, your SQL licenses, they can all be migrated to the cloud. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Windows 7 desktops can be migrated to the cloud and they qualify for the extended security updates. You have efficient use of your technology dollars. You no longer oversize an on-premise network for potential growth. In the cloud, you can scale up or scale down, paying only for what you consume. The cloud provides the same operating systems that an on-premise network uses, so there's no compatibility issues there. So to summarize, the benefits for Azure Virtual Desktop: you can work from anywhere at any time, very mobile. You lose nothing on performance. It performs just as well or better than running from an on-prem workstation. You only pay for what you use. You don't have to oversize and you don't have to undersize. You can just right size and only pay for what you use. You can scale up or scale down as needed. You get enterprise security for a small business price. And it's compatible. You can run any line of business application in the cloud.
So actually, Brian,
Yeah.
Donald was asking, is this solution good for devices that take, are resource heavy, like have, need a lot of CPU and RAM, like for somebody who's developing software, for example?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's scalable, you can provision resources to your cloud desktop to be the right size for the workload. So you can add more CPU, more memory to the cloud desktop, and you could also take advantage of Microsoft's graphical virtual machines that also allow you to run applications like AutoCAD and other graphical intensive applications. It's really depends on your budget. Obviously, as you add more resources, your cloud desktop becomes more expensive.
Actually, that's a question that Julie had. So she was wondering if this is a kind of solution good for, people who are using AutoCAD and 3D. I don't know what Plant 3D is, or Scene, or that kind of stuff. I guess that's more intensive. Yeah. You're
right. All those workloads will run in the cloud, and they'll run very effectively. And what's really nice about that, if the budget fits, your AutoCAD workstation becomes very mobile. You can access it from a tablet, and you experience the same performance as if you're running it locally on a workstation.
Excellent.
All right. So as you can see from this map, Azure regions are right across the globe. And there's also 2 data centers in Canada, and I believe there's a plan for a 3rd one in BC in the next probably 12 to 24 months. So because of that, there's no data sovereignty issues. If you have a requirement to keep your data in Canada, no problem. It can easily be hosted in the 2 centers that are already there. And so we were looking at remote options. There's 2 ways you can take advantage of the cloud. You can move from an on-prem VDI to basically an Azure Virtual Desktop VDI infrastructure. So you can migrate and modernize your virtual desktops and apps. So maybe you're running Windows 7 VDI, VMware, like a Horizon configuration on-prem. Well, that can all be moved to the cloud, and you can then upgrade to Windows 10 without investing in any additional on-prem subscriptions. Or maybe you want to have a hybrid kind of configuration where you are publishing your apps to your local physical PC. It uses the same technology as Azure Virtual Desktop, but instead of publishing a whole desktop, it just publishes the apps, which appear to run on a local PC, but they're really running in the cloud.
Brian, Alex asks, how fast of an internet connection do you need to support cloud virtual desktops?
Typically about 200K per user. The real number that you need to be aware of is the latency. So if you're wondering if your internet connection is fast enough for a cloud desktop, basically you want to ping a service like Google, and and see what the millisecond response is. And if it's under 100, you can easily run a cloud desktop. Does that answer your question? Oh,
yeah, Alex says thank you.
All right, good. All right, so Windows 365 Cloud PC. This is not an Azure Virtual PC. This is a new offering from Microsoft. It's designed for fixed monthly costs, not based on usage, so it's not scalable. Cloud compute resources are not scaled or shared, so you're either paying for an entry-level cloud PC or mid-range or high-end, and those prices are readily available on the public internet. You just look up Windows 365 Cloud PC and go to the Microsoft site, and they'll tell you the different flavors you can get. It's more suited for individual needs or extremely small organizations that you don't get the benefits of scale with Azure Virtual Desktop. And it's Microsoft managed from end to end. You have no control over the configuration of the cloud PC other than what your subscription gives to you. So that's what the Windows 365 Cloud PC is about. In contrast, Azure Virtual Desktop is Microsoft's scalable solution. It is, you can share resources, scale up, scale down. It's designed for optimizing your costs and your performance. Cloud compute resources are scalable and shared. It's more suited to organizations or departments with common cloud desktop needs. So, most of your people are running your typical office applications with 1 or 2 line of business software needs. That is a great match for Azure Virtual Desktop. And organizations or their providers manage the endpoints. So by the endpoints, I mean your physical Windows 10 or Windows 7 desktops that you might have on-prem. And you also manage the cloud desktops. You're able to customize and modify the cloud desktops, whether they're on Windows 7, Windows 10, or Windows 11. So to compare them side by side, on the left side, we see Cloud PC. It's Windows 10 or Windows 11 personalized desktop, so Windows 7 would not be part of a Cloud PC. On the Cloud VDI, Azure Virtual Desktop side, I don't have Windows 7 there, but it can be. We can create a Windows 7 pool using Azure Virtual Desktop and give you that kind of functionality. On the left side, it's completely managed by Microsoft. It's end-to-end. And I'll keep going down that column. One-stop administration in Microsoft Endpoint Manager. It's a direct service module, so model where you subscribe, you get the desktop, and that's what you run from. And it's predictable user pricing. So the prices for Cloud PC, I want to say range between $40 and $70 a month per user for a Cloud PC. And then the Azure Virtual Desktop, that's really, the cost is the main difference. Azure Virtual Desktop will typically save you, 30 to 40% over the Cloud PC because of the flexibility, the ability to scale up during the day while most of your workforce is working, and then scale down for after hours where you might have 10% of your workforce working. So you get that capability with the Azure Virtual Desktop, which you do not get with the Windows Cloud PC.
So I think you answered two questions that just came in. So Eric, was asking when would Windows 365 PC be more appropriate over Azure Virtual Desktop?
Yeah, so to really answer that, I really believe that Windows 365 Cloud PC is designed for individuals or very small organizations where you can't take advantage of the scalability of Azure Virtual Desktop. Azure Virtual Desktop works best when you have a workforce of over 10 people as far as reducing costs are concerned, because you can scale up and scale down. When you get under 10, you could pretty well pick either one, and your costs would be very similar.
And then this gets into the question that Aaron was sent is, so how do you lower costs on Azure Virtual Desktop?
Yeah, the way you lower costs in Azure Virtual Desktops is the scalability. We typically will provision the host that will host the cloud desktops to start up at 7 a.m. in the morning, for instance. Get 10 hosts ready to support 50 users, or 50 desktops, I should say. And then as they work out throughout the day, as we get near the end of the day, we would start scaling those down. As users would log off, we would scale down the number of hosts running. And as I said, Azure, you only get charged for the resources you use. So if you scale down those hosts and shut them off, you're not paying for them. And that's how you get the cost savings, by reducing the number of hosts that are running when you don't need them.
So, and those are things that Brian, you and your team sort of look at and discuss with the customers what their needs are, what they're using, when they're using them, all of that stuff, so that you can have an idea of what the costs are and where you can save, right? I guess.
Yeah, typically what we do is when we do a proposal, we kind of ballpark the cost per user per month, and with the proviso saying, until you're on the system and running, and then we do some performance tuning and discover your work habits as far as when are you most active during the day, and when can we shut down resources. Typically, we can reduce your costs once you've been running on the system for a week or two.
Excellent, thank you.
So I'd just like to give you a flavor of the management interface we use to support our clients in the cloud. This is a Microwage Cloud Manager that we use, and on this screen, I'm showing the user management window. So there's many things you can do in the user management window. You can add user accounts, remove or archive user accounts. You can assign users to cloud desktops. As you can see there, that third column over is the desktops and apps. So you can see that Abby here has been assigned the Microwage Cloud. These other accounts, they don't have any assignments. And we can do many other user management activities through this window. And I just might want to add also that when we onboard you, we also add, let's say you have your own IT department that might manage your resources. We add them so that they can also use this management interface to support your organization.
That's Kathy just asked that question. Are you, do you have to manage, or can we manage it?
Yeah, no, you can manage it. We onboard you. We give you login credentials, and you can manage your organization through the same portal. No problem.
Excellent. So
here's another screen. I'm not going to show it all, because if I showed it all, we'd be here till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But so this interface, I'm showing you the host management. So there you see in my host pool, you see Microwage Cloud. It shows the status. I have 2 hosts running, and here some auto scale stuff. It'll scale up and scale down. Here it'll pre-stage 3 hosts at 7 a.m. So at 3 a.m. or at 7 a.m. every morning, I have 3 hosts running to support my 21 users. Typically, I don't have 21 logged on at any given time, because otherwise, if I did, I would need more hosts than 3. And then that's the performance and testing I was talking about earlier. You really need to know how many concurrent users you would have at any given time to size this appropriately, so you're not paying for more than you need. So lots of things you can do in the host management. You configure all your auto scale. You configure the size of the host. If you look at this image, it's a 2-core 8 gig host that will run the desktops. But you can have all different kinds of sizes. You could have 8 core and 64 gig and host many desktops, but then it's not as scalable. We generally like to have a smaller image size and just have more of them scaled up. And then on this management window, I'm showing the server management. So here you see we have 3 servers running, a domain controller, file server FS01, and a Veeam Cloud backup server. And here I can configure things like scaling up and scaling down. You can also do that on your servers, not just your desktops. You can scale your servers to actually go to a smaller size after hours because there's less people on the system. And you could scale them up at the beginning of each day. So very similar kind of cost savings you can have on your virtual servers in the cloud. And then you can also generate an RDP file so that you can log into them and maybe install a line of business software on the server, and so that it's ready for your end users. And there's many other features you can do through this management interface. And this last one shows the backup configuration. So here we can create and manage file and server share backups. We can disable and enable backups, and we can also initiate restore functions. So here you can see my DC01 and FS01. I've enabled backups on them, so they back up every night. They must be backing up around midnight, judging by the time there. I also have a profile share that I've chosen not to back up, but I could if I wanted to. And yeah, you name it, anything that shows up here, you can enable backup, and then doing a restore is very easy by just clicking on the button and going through the restore process. So as you can see, there's lots of things on this left side column here. There's also Intune integration with this management interface. It basically gives you a single pane of glass to manage your entire network, whether they're physical machines that are enrolled in Intune or virtual machines. And then you could set up your network. Under the network section, there's things like VPN configurations to your on-prem network, all those kinds of things.
And that's actually another question that came in from Don, as he was asking, do the virtual machines integrate with an on-prem domain, or does it have to be all in Azure?
It is totally integratable to your on-prem Active Directory. In fact, we prefer an Active Directory configuration versus the Azure directory integration, because the Active Directory integration is compatible with what we call FS logic profiles. And the profiles is where you store your end user information, so that no matter what device they're connecting from, their settings, their configurations are all consistent. And you need an Active Directory, either a virtual one in the cloud or a physical one on-prem. Typically, when we onboard a customer, we will add a domain controller to the cloud that will be synchronizing with the on-prem Active Directory, so that for performance reasons, when you're a cloud desktop, when you log into that, it'll authenticate against the cloud DC. And if your on-prem workstations are integrated with Active Directory, they'll authenticate to that physical one that you have on-prem. So totally hybrid, totally compatible.
Or we're in the management panes here. Alex was asking, so when you're looking to add an application, how does that impact other users, say in a multi-session environment? Does it cause downtime for everyone? Like how does that, does that process look
great
like?
question. We add the applications to the desktop image, not to the host directly. So if you see on the left side there of this interface, you see desktop images. Under there, I'll have a couple images where I can upgrade applications. I can install new applications. And then when the hosts get deployed, let's say in the morning, they will take the newly modified image so that the application you installed will automatically be on every host, on every desktop that you provision. You can also do things like masking, where maybe you want to put in a financial application, but you only want 5 of your 50 users to be able to access that. Well, you can mask that application from the other 45 users, and only the 5 financial users can access the application. Sometimes you have a department, let's say your accounting department, where they often have changes to their application, or they need updates. Rather than shutting down the whole organization, let's say if they needed to have that happen during a day, you would set those financial users into their own desktop pool, so that you only have to shut down a small group of them. So there's a lot of flexibility there when it comes to adding applications and doing updates. You know, whatever your needs are, we can make it fit.
Excellent, thank you.
All right.
Good question.
Yes, very good question. So some success stories. You know, we have onboarded upwards of 15 to 20 organizations fully into Microsoft Azure Virtual Desktop, with close to 1,000 seats now that are running every day. And so we thought, well, it'd be nice to share some of the success stories that we've had. So I'll go to this first one here. West Region Child and Family Services, one of our clients, they have about 200 seats. They need access to their systems 24/7. They are providing care for children that are placed in foster homes, and it's extremely critical they have access to their data at all times. Well, just before the pandemic hit in 2019, and I'm going to go to the next slide. They were hit with a ransomware attack. They used to be part of a larger organization that hosted all their data and their on-prem VDI. And that organization was hit, and every child organization had no access to the on-prem email servers, the document shares, and the VDI infrastructure was basically wiped out. They had no access to any data. So they reached out to us to see if we could help them get going. So working over a weekend, we're in 72 hours, we were able to onboard all their staff into Office 365. And then we began deploying the Azure Virtual Desktops and Azure hosted Active Directory, VMs, file servers, etc. And we were able to get them up very, very quickly. And then using the persistent images in FS Logic, that's what I was talking about, those profiles that need to go with Active Directory. We're able to implement the security and protect them with multi-factor authentication. So this happened in November, December, and the pandemic hit in March the following year, and they were totally prepared to run in the cloud, whether they're at home or in the office. So it was kind of timely as well.
This is a great story. I mean, yeah. Yeah,
and this was one of 3 of that parent organization that we moved to the cloud quickly, and so it worked really well for them. They were well prepared for the pandemic.
Excellent.
And this next one is a law firm with 25 users. So this is kind of a reverse of the previous one, where, well, it's not really a reverse, but it shows the scalability.
Yes.
They migrated from Terminal Services 2012 from a private cloud to Azure Virtual Desktop and Microsoft 365. And they had an enterprise resource planning ERP system that migrated to cloud as a software as a service. So they used to host that ERP solution, and it was available in a cloud solution, so they moved that to that. Then as they evolved, it was determined that the Azure Virtual Desktop wasn't required anymore, and it was simply removed from the environment, very easily done. And they really only needed one Windows Cloud PC for a consultant, which was easily added to their environment. So there it demonstrated you could scale up as they did. They moved from terminal services to Azure Virtual Desktop, and then as their needs changed and diminished, they were able to scale down, and they didn't have this unnecessary investment in infrastructure had this been an on-premise configuration. And that completes the slides.
Yeah, so there are, if you have any questions, please enter them into the questions panel. We do have some waiting in the wings here. So, but before we get into that, just wanted to let everybody know that I talked about this earlier, the ebook that we're making available to everyone. So you don't have to furiously write down the link there that I have that we have at the bottom of the screen. I am putting it in the chat. And as I mentioned earlier, you will be getting a recording of this probably tomorrow, and the link to the ebook will also be there. So with that, I think let's get into some of the questions that we didn't answer. So one of the questions is from Rod, actually. It says, how about database applications like Sage 50 that are latency sensitive?
Yeah, again, no issue. We have all those CFS agencies, they run Sage on a SQL server. And because their desktops are also in the cloud in the same data center, you have no latency issues. You're basically running a remote desktop session on the cloud desktop, and you're running the app in the cloud, and you do not experience any latency issues. It's not like you're running the client and on-prem. It's running in the cloud as well. So we have lots of experience with that, and it works just as well as an on-prem network would.
Excellent. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my questions here. I lost it, sorry. Almost there. Okay, so actually a question comes in from Matthew, says, in the deployments that you've done so far, have you most of the companies used or provided their own equipment to their users, or did they do bring your own device type deployments?
There's a bit of a mix. Typically, most organizations already had workstations and laptops and thin, this is also compatible with Windows thin clients, so you don't need a full-blown computer to access it. But they also have the flexibility where they will allow staff to run from a home PC and access their cloud desktop. So it's a bit of a mix. It's whatever the organization wants. If the organization wants full control over the endpoints, they may want to restrict access from anything except for an Intune enrolled PC, for instance. But it's entirely up to the organization. The flexibility is there.
Okay. Another question comes in from Dawn and is asking, do nonprofit or charities get any financial support from Microsoft?
Yes, they do. Nonprofits and charities that qualify, and generally to qualify is you have to be registered as a nonprofit with CRA. You get $3,500 US in Azure credits per year. So that's significant. It allows small nonprofit organizations to move to the cloud with very little costs. It also provides quite a reduction for the larger nonprofits. And plus your Office 365 licensing, business premium, which you would need to run an Azure Virtual Desktop, is a fraction of the cost versus a business price. There's a big discount with Office 365 licensing available to nonprofits and charities.
Great, that's good to know. All right, I'm just checking and see. I don't see any other questions coming in. So first of all, so Brian, thank you for the presentation. It was quite eye-opening. And thanks everyone for joining us today. We encourage you once again to download the ebook and reach out to your local Microwage with any questions. They'll be happy to help you. And just before I let everybody go, just wanted to mention that we hope to see you all on our next Microwage Talks Technology webinar on October 13th. Our focus will be on phishing and learning what to look for to catch a phishing email. So the invites will go out in just a week or two, so look for that, and we hope to see you all there. So with that, once again, Brian, thank you, and everyone who joined us today, thank you very much for your time, and we hope that the webinar was of value to you. With that, I wish you all a great rest of the day.
Thank you.